Good one.
I'm going live. I hit record.
Boop.
Boop, boop, boop.
It's working. Okay.
All right. I'm going to take my train turn after the show because this is an important turn. All right.
So it's important in the Parliament round.
It depends. I gotta do some math because I have found Parliament round.
Start a chartered company. Be my guest.
I found my thinking way before of always have to have the non-chartered emerge in. Sometimes you end up in the situation like you were in where you have a pile of money now in a company that can't use it.
Also, I guess if you start a chartered company, you do get 5 shares of free money immediately.
Yep. So it comes down to will other people
you get less long-term money, but you get more short-term money. So
yep. It's I got to do some math.
And of course, if you want to get a company, I
sometimes use Parliament to lock it in.
No, I was like, well, I was like the previous round, I wanted FDR no matter what, and I was like, do I charter it? And I'm like, no, because if someone else tries to charter, I could just outbid them. I'll be fine. And if no one outbids, then all I have to worry about is Chris starting it
right
as a non-charter, and that didn't happen.
But the other reason to do a charter sometimes I've found is that it gives you 4 buy actions for a total of 5 shares, or I guess 3 buy actions for a total of 5 shares without taking up actions you'll spend during the stock round. So if there's a limited number of shares,
all your money.
Yep, but if there's a limited number of shares to buy and you've got a lot of money, you can use it to pre-buy, so you can also buy the shares that other people are trying to buy. Usually that's like the second to last stock round. That's a problem. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll save my money for the...
I will decide what I'm going to do when the time comes. Let me start the show. It's not Wednesday. It's Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are reviewing WarioWare Get It Together on the Nintendo Switch. So one thing I didn't do during the entire quarantine until just now was get new glasses. Like, most people get glasses if you have a prescription every year. Sometimes every other year, but usually people do it every year for a lot of reasons, because most people's prescriptions, if you need glasses, they change over time.
I feel like people with money might do it every year or two. I think most people don't have money and don't do it that often.
Well, people with insurance, because if you have insurance, you can get, like, they won't be stylish glasses, but they are glasses every year for mostly free. And the exam you also get every year from the insurance. Even crappy insurance covers that. Make sure you don't have like a glaucoma or something.
Outside the United States, whether it's free healthcare or not, are not as subject to the glasses monopoly and other difficulties.
I mean, I buy my glasses overseas once I get my prescription. I don't use the U.S. glasses monopoly.
Right, but most people in the U.S. are sort of stuck with the U.S. glasses monopoly situation.
Oh, no, my European coworkers get glasses whenever they need new glasses. They're not stuck waiting a year. Like, if they need glasses halfway through the year, they're not stuck waiting until the next year to get new glasses.
But also, they're not paying a fortune, right? Because, in other countries, you just figure out your numbers for your eyeballs, right? And then you can go to any place and just give them your numbers and they'll sell them to you. In the US, it's like, oh, you want contacts? You got to go to a special prescription place. It's like...
Or you just go online and buy them like I do. Like, I don't buy glasses from my places.
But that wasn't an option until recently. And I think, it's still...
It's been an option for about a little over a decade.
I think a lot of people still don't do that.
Oh, yeah, because they don't know. They go to, like, lens crafters or something.
Right. If you look around, opticians...
That's how Warby Parker got so big, because they were like, yo, dog, come online. We'll sell you glasses for like $200 that are great. And we take your insurance.
Look how many physical stores they're opening, right? Optician and glasses place is like one of the still brick and mortar businesses, just like nail place and hair place. The online ones have not, been strong enough. I mean, they got some strength for sure.
Yeah.
But if not completely crushed the,
Well, I'd go further.
Store.
It's fucked up that eye correction is not considered healthcare like going to a doctor. It's like a separate thing.
Obviously, that goes without saying.
Yeah, like, see also, why is dental care not covered by, like, health insurance? But, again, America's a very fucked up place. But... So I finally, I was avoiding going to my eye doctor because quarantine, I don't have to. My glasses are like good enough. They're old and scratched up, but I could wait. So now that we're in the like long tail like transition post-COVID, I felt safe putting on a mask, going to my eye doctor, getting a eye exam, which I skipped for 2 years. And the news that came back was actually interesting. And the doctor did it twice he made me go through the whole exam twice because he said he was surprised. My prescription has not changed at all in that time, which for someone with bad myopia is very rare. Usually if you have myopia, it just gets worse and worse and worse every year your whole life until you get so old that you start becoming farsighted and it actually starts to get better, but then you need reading glasses or like bifocals or something.
Well, maybe it's because you didn't go outside and the sun didn't burn your eyes much.
Nope. Sunlight actually makes myopia get worse slower. And there is clear evidence. This is absolutely settled science. The primary cause of nearsightedness in the entire world is not being out in the sun enough when you're young. That causes it straight up. In fact, you can look at countries, and countries where kids go outside less have a straight line correlation with need more nearsightedness correcting glasses. And I'm not going to get into there's a whole like thing about exactly the cause. It's pretty straightforward and simple. But no, basically for whatever reason.
Well, the internet seems to say basically it says that it's not settled science. This is the fact and law, like you were saying.
Well, it's settled in that there's clear evidence that the majority of nearsightedness is caused by this, but there are a lot of other causes of nearsightedness. Genetics.
It says basically like, more UVB levels of UVB radiation, right, is correlated with less likely to be nearsighted.
I'll link to it in the show because there was a more specific thing. SciShow covered this meta-analysis that said it wasn't UV was just one of many factors. It came down to how the eye learns to focus, and it does it better in bright light than in dim light, and people who experience dim light more often are much more likely to have myopia, irrespective of all other factors except pure genetics, which is also a primary cause of certain kinds of myopia.
Anyway,
my eye doctor was kind of weird about it and did the exam twice because basically my prescription has not changed in 11 years now. Despite having extreme myopia that is specifically and commonly associated with continued degradation. So I'm a weird case, apparently. But I got brand new glasses. I got them on right now. And I actually asked him to give me a stronger prescription, and I got 2010 testable vision. Slight zoom on my glasses.
Okay.
So
I can see perfectly with no aid whatsoever.
Yeah, good job. I know you probably went outside a lot as a kid. I was mostly inside playing video games.
How much inside did I do? I was inside just like every other nerd. What was it?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of news, and this one's really funny to me. So as of now, Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3,
So
Konami, not 1, but 2 and 3. Konami has been forced to remove these games from pretty much every platform they exist on today that they have control over. So the PlayStation...
But it's, I know on Steam, for example, if you own the game already, you got it, right? So they're just taking things out of the store so people can't buy it now. But if you've already got it, you've already got it.
Yes, except for any iteration of this game that phone's home, it won't let you play it right now. Because of the takedown notice.
Is there even such a thing?
So they have taken it down from NVIDIA Shield.
Those are streaming. Those are live streaming ones. Yeah, that makes
GOG.com. The Nintendo 3DS, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D, Xbox 360, the HD edition.
Right, most of those are, so it's basically, it's taken out of stores, but if you own the game already, you can play it as long as you don't own it on something like, the NVIDIA one, which is a streaming one.
Yep. If you've got like an old disc that you can get to work in an old console, it'll still work. But
obviously, if you bought it on Steam and you've already downloaded it, if you bought it on GOG and you've already downloaded it,
they won't let. Apparently, you can't re-download it right now.
No, but if you own it, you own it. Right?
Yep. So Konami has been forced to take down Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 from every platform they can take it down on because of a DMC violation from a company they bought the rights to a small amount of historical war footage
they buy the rights. They licensed the rights,
And when they attempted to renew this license, it appears that this company wouldn't just renew them, and there's a lot of secrecy about exactly what happened. But all we know is that as of right now, Konami said these games are unavailable. We cannot say when they will be available, and we're trying to work with this licensor to relicense.
First of all, how many people are buying those games now? I feel like you've already owned them, right?
Yep. 2,
if you really want them, you can get them somewhere, right? 3, this is why if you're making games or whatever, if you're going, this happens a lot. There's been lots of situations where like someone included, like some music in their game. Like GTA has the radio, and Tony Hawk games have a lot of music in them. We talk about Evangelion with the, the anime with the Fly Me to the Moon at the end.
Yep.
It's like, you put in
even
something that...
Even there are a lot of anime soundtracks that come out that just have certain songs missing from them because they only license them to be in the show, or they only license them for the first time the show aired on TV, and then when you buy the DVD, different songs.
Yep, you had to put in different music or cut, stuff out. So my recommendation is that if you are making artwork and you are going to include something that is not public domain, not royalty free, and not yours in it, that you need to get some sort of in perpetuity deal. You can't be getting these limited deals. It's just not going to work.
Yep. So one thing I've learned from some indie creators over the years is that by and large, real music, like I'm making quote fingers, obviously, anything that's licensed by traditional companies, they just won't work with you to get that kind of license. And they will just be always a threat unless you get your own music somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so let's say, I would like to include some, I don't know, rock song, a famous rock song.
You're making, say, a game based on the anime Speedgrapher, which is about photographing girls, and you want the song Girls on Film to be in your game, and you make a cutscene around it.
You might like to do that, sure. I understand. That makes sense. But it's like, if it's going to be a pain in the ass, if they're not going to work with you, you're better off just not doing it. Just don't fight them. And it's like, and if you think about it, right, in pretty much all, mixed media forms, right, movies, video games, right, audio and visual forms, the best works are things that tend to have original scores, right, which is music made for the thing. Think about the legendary video game musics, like especially Capcom has so many of them.
Yep.
Those are all made by Capcom sound team. They didn't buy music from somewhere else, as they hired people who made music. And it's like Mega Man doesn't have to worry about this problem, right?
Yep.
Street Fighter doesn't have to worry about this. Nintendo doesn't have to worry about this. They make their own goddamn music. Star Wars, okay, they hired John Williams. He made music for Star Wars. It's the Star Wars music. They don't have to worry about something happening there. And old movies, it's like, okay, you ever turn on an old movie, what do you hear? You hear classical music. They don't got to worry about it, right? They got Tchaikovsky play it. They're fine, right? Nothing's going to happen.
I mean, you'll still, if you do something online with that thing, you'll probably still get a takedown from some random orchestra that recorded that same song, even if it's not the recording you used. But that's a separate problem.
From an orchestra that existed in the 40s.
Yeah. You'll often get takedowns anyway, because sometimes those recordings in a modern recording functionally indistinguishable, or the company that owns the rights to a recent recording doesn't give a shit.
About the movies and video games especially, but also other things that have legendary music, it's almost always stuff that had its own score. So if you are making something, I would encourage you to avoid this problem and make your own score, or hire someone to make you a score.
Well, look at Undertale, one of the greatest scores to a video game in recent history, and that was basically composed for Undertale directly, that score.
Right. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah, but it does suck in general that it's basically impossible to use music in video games these days, partly because of all these problems and partly because of streamer modes. And like, if you want to stream a game, you got to cut all the music out. Like, to this day, if I want to play Rocket League, sure. If I want to stream Rocket League, I got to turn off all the music that's in Rocket League or my videos get taken down. So you got any gaming news?
It's not really so much a news other than the fact that this game is out, and I haven't played the game yet, so it's not a Geek Bite. but I have seen a lot of talking about it and a lot of content from it on various places. So the game is called, is it Unboxed? Unpacking? Unpacking. So this is a game. It's got that sort of 3/4 view pixelated style. If you see it, you'll know that isometric, somewhat pixely, but small pixels. You've seen this style before, this aesthetic.
Yep.
And it's a game in which you are put into a house and there's a bunch of boxes and you unpack the stuff. So it's a game sort of, it falls in line a little bit with like the house flipping simulator type game, right? Or even Animal Crossing, right? You're expressing yourself by arranging items. So that's fun. But this game there's two things I know about it that make it like really off the wall, right? The first thing is that there's sort of like a replay mode. So you can get the game to sort of show you a replay of yourself unpacking, and you can use this to create like fun stuff. And the example I saw on the internet here was somebody unpacked a bunch of stuffed animals and kept moving them around. And then when they watched the replay, the stuffed animals are like playing soccer.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'll move them here, I'll move them there, I'll move the ball, I'll move them here, right? And then when you replay that, it's like you made a little movie. So it's, you can get even more expression out of this game using the replay mode and not just, arranging the room just so and expressing yourself that way. The other thing I saw about that game that I'm still trying to wrap my head around how they did this for a game that's only $20 and is presumably an indie kind of deal. There's a little video going around showing they supposedly have 14,000 plus different sound effects in the game for placing items. It's like place a metal item on the wood table and it sounds like you placed a metal item on a wood table. You place it on the toilet, it sounds like you placed a metal item on a porcelain toilet. And it even sounds different when you put it on different areas of the toilet or the toilet lid. Or, you take a cardboard box and lay it down on a carpet and it sounds like you put a cardboard box on a carpet. And like every conceivable possible combination of materials, weight, etc., they have the sound effect that matches like exactly as if you place that item in that spot. Did they do this manually? How that would be some Herculean effort. If they didn't do it manually, how the hell did they do it? Where did they get all the sound effects from? How the hell does this work? Right? I don't even know, but it's if you play the game, it's in there somehow. So that's just fucking incredible. And that alone just makes you want to play the game. Like you could just make that as an app, like choose two materials and hear the sound effect. That could stand alone as an app that was worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that is just a component of this larger game is really incredible and makes me want to give them the $20 regardless of whether the game is any fun or not. So
yeah.
I think that's worth mentioning even if it's just a new game was released and I've never even played it. That's so incredible that it deserves some time.
It was also making the rounds. That's how I encountered it, because people were freaking out that kids have no idea what a GameCube is and they can't figure out what
one person on Polygon made some clickbait that was like they wrote an article that was published today and they're like, yeah, the game, in Unboxed, one of the items that you could unpack looks basically like a GameCube. It's a GameCube.
And he linked to two tweets of people who don't know what it is.
Right. It's like there are a couple people who were like, what is this? They like put it in the kitchen. They thought it was a kitchen appliance.
I'm going to go one step further, though. Regardless of the clickbait side of it, that's not a GameCube because it's wrong. That's not what the front of a GameCube looks like at all.
That's not, obviously you couldn't make it just look like a GameCube because Nintendo would sue you. It's a GameCube-esque video game console, right?
Yep. I would argue that we need a copyright regime where you could just put a GameCube there because it's a physical object you're representing in a simulation game. But again, copyright's just super broken. We can't address that.
I agree. It's the same as if I take a photo on the street in a public place and there happens to be an advertisement there with the trademark logo in it. It's like, I can still publish that as my work.
Yep.
Right?
But we're not going to dwell on that because GeekNights, mad about copyright since 2005. We don't need to beat that horse to death.
2005?
I mean, GeekNights didn't exist until 2005 publicly. So.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. All right, we can go right into the main bit. Just put a hornet there. All right. But anyway, things of the day. Cute little video. Very well done. It's the scene from Jurassic Park. I guess spoilers if you've never seen Jurassic.
Scene? The raptor scene?
The beginning of the T-Rex scene when the T-Rex attacks the Jeeps. Spoilers: the dinosaurs escape in Jurassic Park. Like that happens. So someone did a really good job of taking what looks like their own cat and compositing their cat in place of the T-Rex. And compositing other things into the scene to make this make even more sense than it should have. But otherwise, it's so well done and so like funny that it's 100% worth watching. Like you got to see this. It's it takes multiple steps more effort than you would have expected a video like this to make just to make it like that 1% funnier.
All right. So recently, I did a thing of the day, which was like a little ASCII calendar generator. We're going to continue our little ASCII thing of the day situation here. This is ASCII.alienmelon.com, and it's an ASCII Paint tool. So, the way it works is you choose the size of your canvas because it's going to be a grid, right? A solid grid of ASCIIs, obviously, ASCII characters. And then you choose which ASCII characters you want to like load into the paintbrush. So there's 5 automatic choices, right? Like dingbats, Unicode, alphanumeric, etc. But you can also make a custom one and just type in like, okay, I only want to use like X and O and that's it or whatever, right? You choose. And then you just use your mouse cursor and paint on the grid. And it's just like using the paintbrush tool or the pencil tool in your favorite paint program, only of the characters that are currently loaded in your brush, random ones come out.
Yeah.
So you can draw stuff in ASCII way easier than, sitting there with Notepad trying to manually justify your ASCII arts. But obviously, because it's random characters, you can't be too precise in your ASCII arts. You're not going to be able to make something really elaborate.
Yep.
But you can make like a quick drawing in ASCII and then export, as a JPEG really easily. Well, not export as a JPEG. Basically, you click the build ASCII button.
Export as ASCII.
Right. It basically exports it as a text. You get a text file, and you can copy paste it, or you can screenshot it, or both.
It's fun biz.
Yeah, really, really useful little tool here for your ASCII ways, and I appreciate the DOS GUI stylings of the UI in the bottom right.
That's an aesthetic that we've talked about before.
Yeah. You can still make apps with that aesthetic if you want.
Yeah. In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book, The Tale of Genji. We're still plugging along. I'm reading it every day because, pooping at work.
I only have 12 days of work remaining this year. And when I don't have work to do, I'm going to have a lot of time for just getting this. I really have a lot, I've been reading it, but especially because I got my newer Kindle, which is, I'm using that.
I did pause to read a volume of Jujutsu Kaisen, but not reading more of that. So
yeah, no, but my goal is basically, get this book done by the end of the year, and that way we can start next year, like with all this tragic bullshit behind us, and go fresh on some other literatures.
Yep, especially because we'll be starting a new book in an era where I am traveling and thus I am reading. So let's see what else we got going. Scott will not be there, very likely. There's like a 0.1% chance Scott will be there. I will be at PAX Unplugged for about 2 hours on Friday, December 10th. I'm going to roll in, do a panel, Rare Game Mechanics at 1 p.m. in the Crab God Theater on Friday. We did a pilot version of this panel years ago at a MagFest, and I started rewriting it back then, and then COVID, we never had a con to do it at again, so I'm going to do it at Unplugged. I'm getting rid of all the video game stuff, just focusing on tabletop. It's going to be videoed, So if you're not already planning to go to PAX Unplugged, do not go to PAX Unplugged to see this panel. It will 100% be on YouTube by like Sunday that same weekend.
Isn't it already on YouTube in a different version?
Yeah, an old version of it. Where me and Scott did it at MagFest, kind of spitballing and trying things out. But I've already rewritten it kind of substantially based on watching that video again. I mean, I'm getting rid of all the video game stuff for one. We spent like a good quarter of the panel talking about video games.
Unplugged, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be a first brand new panel in a while since Atari Game Design.
If we've done it before, it's not brand new.
It's new content. There's new stuff in there.
It's not brand new. Brand new means 100% new.
Says
if
who?
It's even 1% old. It's not brand new.
Says who? Brand new Oreo flavor is still fundamentally just an Oreo.
But it has to be a flavor that they have never done before.
Says who?
At all.
What if it's still chocolate, but they put like a different kind of mint? It's wintergreen on the inside.
Have they ever done chocolate wintergreen before?
What if they've done every chocolate and mint combination except wintergreen specifically?
That would still be new.
Yeah. So this is going to be different slides and different topics.
It's the same exact, but you didn't even change at least in the example you gave of the Oreo, at least the name of the flavor is different. The panel name is the same thing.
Judge anime by its cover. Totally different set of anime every time. Same panel title.
It's no. Whatever. Not new. All right.
Brand new.
One last thing.
Yep.
We are in a since I'm not working, right? And we got some assistance from someone that we're paying real money. We're remaking finally the GeekNights website. So I'm gonna give you two things, right, that you can do to get, well, three things actually you can do to get involved with the new GeekNights website. Number one, you can come find us anywhere we live on the internet, Discords, forums, emails, Twitters, whatever. And you can give us some fucking suggestions for the website, right? Obviously some of the suggestions are not necessary. Like, yeah, we're going to have search that doesn't suck. It's good. You don't need to tell me that. We know. But maybe you have a really good idea, a clever new idea for the website. Wouldn't hurt to tell us. I can't promise I'm going to do it, but I want to hear it. Two, the website actually has this very old feature that still works, by the way, where you can go to this GitHub repository and add show notes.
Oh, I forgot about that. Holy shit.
Right. Well, because we're digging through the website, so we're finding all this stuff in there, right?
We used to have a lot of listeners. Well, not a lot, but like several listeners.
That is not true.
What? There were like 3 or 4 people. That's several.
For an extremely brief period of time, mostly one.
Really? Only one?
Maybe two, but mostly one listener wrote show notes for an extremely short period of time for a very small number of episodes a long time ago, and never did it again, and no one else did it again. But we are probably going to, I don't know if we'll have it immediately, but we're going to have some sort of show note solution of some kind. I don't know. It might not even be who knows, of something. But if you're interested, if you want to write show notes for episodes, that may be a thing. So, just let me know. And I guess the third thing is that while we're working on the website, you're not going to, we have set up beta.frontrowcrew.com. If you go there right now, you're going to see the words beta.frontrowcrew.com, but nothing else. But it will slowly appear, I guess, as we work on it, so you can track our progress and also, comment. Obviously, nothing that you see there is any close to final, because when it's final, it'll be moved to frontrowcrew.com.
Yeah.
So don't pretend like just because you see something there that it's gonna happen and needs to be criticized, because we're in the middle of working on it, obviously. But I'll let you know that it's there. That can't hurt, right? Go take a look. What are you gonna do, right? Nothing. You can't harm it. So go right ahead.
Yep. And one other thing I can say that I didn't look into this yet because I only noticed it a little while ago, but someone, or maybe YouTube did it automatically and I didn't notice, because that YouTube chapters feature was added a while ago, where you can like put chapters.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been, yeah.
So what I noticed is that for almost all of our Geek Nights lectures, there are extremely accurate chapters for like every topic we talk about.
Okay.
on all our videos. And all I'm saying is, I did not do that.
Okay.
So either YouTube did it automatically or one of you used the crowd feature to do it. So I'm going to look into that.
If someone does the crowd feature, don't you have to like review it and approve it?
At least for captions and other things, I opened it up and left it all unapproved for a long time because people
The
were.
unapproved captions is dangerous because someone can write, racist slur, racist
Yep,
slur.
I've been keeping an eye on that,
Bitcoin.
and by and large, people people are still contributing legit captions to our videos like all the time. Crazy random people. I might actually disable it now only because the auto captions are better than what people have been submitting. But yeah, I don't know where the chapters appeared in our videos because I had not made a plan yet to use that feature, and suddenly I noticed it appeared on almost all of our panels. Except for old panels that like no one has watched in a long time, but old panels that get watched a lot have very detailed chapters. So
Okay, that's nice.
yeah. All right, WarioWare. The last time we talked about WarioWare on Geek Nights was in 2007 when we reviewed WarioWare Smooth Moves for the Wii. And looking at the notes from that episode, we gave it a very poor review.
Right. So the problem with WarioWare Smooth Moves, if you don't want to go back and listen to it, that was the Wii one, is that a lot of the games were trying to use the Wii motion controls and whatnot. And thus they had limited sort of staying power.
Yep.
And also all the multiplayer modes basically were, mediocre at best.
Yep.
And
then
the greatest WarioWare.
And after that WarioWare, we just didn't play a lot of WarioWares. Like a Wii U one came out, we didn't have Wii U's.
Obviously no one has a Wii U. So.
Yep. So we got back into the Wario game just recently with the new one that just came out on the Switch.
Right. Well, we played the demo of this when it came out when we were at the beach, and it was kind of fun, So I went ahead and I chose to be the sacrificial lamb on this one, and I went out and I bought the new one, and I played the single player. So what I can tell you about the single player in this Wario is that much like all the other Wario micro games, the way it works is you start with Wario. Right. And they section off groups of micro games according to the different characters. Right. Ashley has these games. Right. Orbulon has these games. 9-Volt has these games. And you go through this plot, and each plot you encounter the characters one at a time. You encounter a character and you have to play a bunch of micro games themed to that character. Then you have to do some sort of boss fight, which is, unique and interesting. And then you go to the next character and you keep doing that until you've beaten all the characters, sets of micro games. And there will still be micro games to unlock further. The game isn't done yet, but that's just how the single player goes. You progress through a whole bunch of games and bosses, and then you beat the game.
Yep.
So as a Wario micro game, it's like if you enjoyed the old, the original ones, like the GBA one, the first one, or the GameCube one single player, you're going to enjoy this single player too. It's, got a lot of, the same kind of, games going on. Some of them are really interesting and fun and have fun themes, especially everyone always loves the Nintendo themed ones. Those are always great.
It's also added a little interesting complexity, which we'll get into with the characters that I don't think any WarioWare had done before.
No, so this is like it's a positive and a negative, and is the key feature of this Wario. See, unlike a lot of the previous Warios that were relying on the Wii one went hard on the Wii motion controls, the DS one went hard with the stylus.
Yep.
Right. So this Switch one, the Switch has motion controls, but they just went back to button pressing. They didn't go with any of that stuff.
The correct call. You only use the control schemes that are used by the majority of games and people, unless you're making DDR or something.
Yeah, D-pads and buttons, right?
Yep. You can have an extra mode of the motion mini game, but don't make that required.
Yeah, there was the GBA twisted one, right, where you had to tilt the controller, had the thing built into the cartridge, that one. But anyway, this one goes back to normal controls. So what did they do to mix things up on the Switch? Well, it's Get It Together is the title of the game, because all of the characters are together. See, all of these micro games are games in which you are controlling one of the characters that is in the wide array of WarioWare characters. And each of those characters controls and plays completely differently. Some of them can fly, some of them can shoot, some of them
some of them are jumping constantly and shooting objects some of them are extremely weird and hard to control.
Yep. So each character is wildly different in the way it works. Some can only shoot straight up. Some, it's like they're all very different from each other. So, and every single micro game can theoretically be beaten no matter which character you happen to have chosen. But based on which micro game it is and which character you have, it may be really, really easy or really, really hard.
Yep, like a micro game of avoid the thing is real hard when you're playing the constantly jumping character.
Right, or the game where it's like, oh, you just have to shoot something that's on the right side of the screen, but you've got the character who always shoots to the left. So you've got to hustle to the right side of the screen and shoot it from the other side.
Yep.
Right. So that's that. And then, but as a result of all these characters that control completely differently, if you play the single player, it teaches you the characters one at a time. You start with Wario, right? And then there's it gives you tutorials for each new character as you encounter them throughout the game. And then you're obviously only playing with characters you've already learned about. So if you play the single player game, it's sort of like a positive experience where old games become new and fresh again because you have a different character to play with. You're constantly, it's not very samey as you go through the game. Like each new level is like a whole new thing. Playing through the game again, and trying to unlock new stuff might actually be interesting if you're using different characters the second time through.
Like it might have the most single player novel content that's actually differentiated than any other WarioWare to date just because of that. You multiply the number of micro games by the large number of characters. There are more characters than you're expecting too.
Mm-hmm. So and there's characters you didn't even know were going to be in there, like hidden ones at the end. Spoilers, right? So that's kind of a positive. Like as far as WarioWare games go, if you like that kind of game, I sort of put them in the same category as even though these are micro, they're if a WarioWare game is not micro, it ends up looking a lot like Shapes and Beats or Super Hexagon, right? Like a really simple input, high skill kind of game, right? The skill in WarioWare games is lower, but because the game is so fast, the actual skill is not beating the games, but is instead recognizing the game, figuring out how to beat it, and then executing in a short amount of time.
Yep, and that's where, unlike other kinds of games, this WarioWare games are games where how we would review it from a single player perspective might be radically different from how we'd review that same game from a multiplayer perspective.
Yep. So in this new Wario, of course, there are multiplayer modes, which are the ones of most interest to us because when those multiplayer modes have been good in the past, which was exactly once.
WarioWare GameCube. I can't believe we never did a review of it. We've talked about it in panels often.
Right. All you have to know is that on WarioWare GameCube, there are many multiplayer modes, but 2 or 3 of them are actually quite good. The turtle one being the best one.
Turtle one, the dance party one, because it's simple and it does the job, and the space one are the 3 good ones.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's a really fun party game, like Bomberman level quality, amazing party game. So every time a Wario comes out, if it has multiplayer modes, you're like, ooh, is this going to be an amazing party game? So this new Wario, it does have quite a few multiplayer modes. And I would say that they are, not all of them are good, but some of them are pretty good. The problem is those characters. If you sit down to play this as a party game, only someone who's played the single player knows all these characters.
And that is a radical departure from how multiplayer has succeeded in old WarioWares, in that with WarioWare GameCube, the pattern we would see everywhere, almost no one had played that game single player. But at any party, any event, you could just put it on the screen, people would sit down and have a lot of fun.
Even if you had played it single player, it wouldn't really help you that much, right? You'd just have more practice with a few of the games.
Yep, you might know all the mini games and be better at them, but you're not having that much of an advantage compared to someone who's never encountered them before. And the person who's never encountered them before can engage with them and learn them very quickly.
Right. And it's not really that about an advantage, it's about disadvantage. So here, every game you play, you're got these characters, and if you don't know what the different characters do, and like there are times you might have to choose a character or get stuck with a random one.
Yep.
And in a short micro game, even if you can recognize the game, recognize how to beat it, etc., when you add in extra time for how do I beat it with this character, well, now you're sort of at the limit.
I would say 90% of the games we played with our group of friends, who won a given minigame came down to which character happened to naturally be better at that microgame.
But also, even if you have the character who's naturally better at that game,
do you know how to use that character?
Do you know that character already? If you don't know the character already, even if you are perfect at all the other aspects, that puts you over the top into the failure zone. So it is not a huge advantage to have played the single player. It is a tremendous disadvantage to have not played the single player. If you don't know all the characters, you can't just jump into this, even if you're playing one of the good multiplayer modes. It's just sort of like you're just going to lose and lose and lose until you eventually pick up on the different characters.
But I'd say it's almost a deal breaker because the time it takes to learn the characters well enough to engage with this game.
There's so many of them.
Is far longer than the frustration threshold of losing in multiplayer for most people.
If you're at a party, it's a party game. You want to pick up and play. You don't have time to play for 20 minutes. Now we're ready to play for real.
Yep.
It's like no one at a party is spending 20 minutes doing that. So it's like only people who've already played the game. And even if you've already played the game, have you played it recently? Do you remember all the characters and how they work? I played it recently. I bought it and I own it, and I don't remember all of them. It's like, so that's sort of like a struggle. Right?
Yeah.
You can't just jump in and play. Well, a party game you can't jump in and play is a non-starter.
And I think that turns it into, I would say this is a upper tier, maybe top tier single player WarioWare game. And it's a not bottom tier, but near the bottom multiplayer.
I would say in terms of multiplayer, I'd say it's second best, right? You lose that ability to have people at a party jump in and play. But if by somehow you have that scenario where everyone knows the characters, or you're in college or something and everyone's playing it a bunch, then the good modes could be really good.
Like if we were at RIT, we would just play this like every other night for 4 years.
Right. So let's go through, I guess, most of the different multiplayer modes and just talk about them quickly.
Because there aren't that many, and honestly, none of them are even close to the GameCube WarioWare.
The balloon bag one.
It's the closest. It's the closest.
Yeah. So there's Gotta Bounce. So Gotta Bounce is basically keep the ball in the air mode, but it's multiplayer. So you're all working together to keep the ball in the air without letting it hit the ground. The longer you keep it up, weird stuff starts happening to keep it interesting. But at any given moment, the ball is matching the color of one of the players. So let's say the ball is green and I'm green and Rim's red. There's nothing stopping Rim from bouncing the ball and keeping it up off the ground because, he's still a character.
Yep.
He's still there at all times. But we don't score any points for that. If the ball is green, the green player must hit it, and that will change its color and score a point. So you basically need to not only coordinate, don't let it hit the ground, you need to basically trade off between which player is hitting it according to its color. But you don't necessarily, even if it's not your color, you don't necessarily want to run away from the ball because you might need to be the backup to keep it off the ground because that's game over.
Yep.
So this could be an interesting, fun time, but I think it would get old. Once your group got good at it, you'd be like, all right, that's enough.
I mean, even before we got good at it, I'll be honest, I was bored with it after a couple minutes because it's just, can I make this integer go up before we lose?
I think if you get it going longer, more interesting things start to happen. But we never got it going that long for those things to happen.
Partly because no one in our group understood the characters, and partly because everyone got bored with this mode very quickly.
Yep. So the next one is Daily Grind. So Daily Grind is this competitive side scroller. It's like an auto scroller, and you each have a character, and you're going sideways through this level where you can break bricks. you can pick up contracts because it's like a business, right? Daily grind. There's these guys that come and try to steal your contracts and whatnot. And there's also these blocks you can hit that will make balls come out. And the balls associate with other characters. And if you grab a ball, you can basically switch your character, which might be good or bad. So you have to be able to recognize which ball is which character, and do you want to switch to that character? And then can you dodge or intentionally grab the ball before someone else grabs it, right? And then you score points based on how many contracts you're holding when you get to the end. And if you get hit too much, you get eliminated. It's a little competitive side-scrolly thing. It's okay.
Yeah, I guess but the problem I had with it was, one, the side-scrolling was too simplistic and too repetitive. Like, it didn't feel like...
I would rather play, like a, new Mario Brothers co-op with multiple players or something like that, right?
And the other problem was, this one, even more so than other modes, if you don't know how all the characters work, you can't even engage with the only interesting mechanic in this mode, grabbing the ball to switch to a character.
Yep. So yeah, there's a friendless battle, which is one player only. I didn't try that. Maybe I should.
Yeah.
There's a high five mode, which is like a volleyball. So the way this works is, you're playing volleyball. It's very similar to the gotta bounce, keep the ball in the air, but you're split into teams, 2 on each side.
Yep. So it's actually a competitive versus game.
Yeah. And you obviously are trying to score in volleyball, right? Every time though, you hit the ball and keep it on your own side, it ticks up to number 5. Or down to 1, it doesn't matter.
It's counting down. It's like a shot clock almost. But the more it counts down, the harder your shot is.
Right. So you want to volley it to your own team several times and then hit it over the fence, the net, and it'll be a much harder, nastier shot. But sometimes you don't want to do that because obviously you just get it over quickly, right? It's if you keep it on your own side, there's a risk you'll just drop it on your side.
Yep.
And there's also, I think there is a shot clock. I think if you try to dilly-dally too long, you just, a point gets scored on you. But yeah, you're playing team volleyball 2-on-2. It's all right.
It's all right.
I'd rather just play a volleyball game though. I feel that
even just Windjammers.
Kings of the Beach for the NES is probably more fun than this.
Yep,
right?
or even just analogous games like Windjammers are more fun than this.
Yeah. There's a Duelius Maximus, which is just a pretty straightforward, who can do the microgames faster kind of thing. It's a one-on-one, thing. Duelius, right? Dueling.
Yep.
Not much to say about that. Rising Star is also a dueling kind of thing. This is interesting. Basically, you are doing this mini game sort of together, right, with the other player that you're competing with, and then there's a AI judge of sorts that is judging who contributed most. So if you lose the mini game, you lost it, right? But if you complete the mini game together, the judge is like, that player contributed the most. They're the star. And it will give them a star. And you can also lose stars, right? And it's sort of on the one hand, you're just trying to get to 5 stars and win. I'm not sure if you get eliminated when you go down to 0 stars or not. But yeah, you're just trying to play the mini games in such a way that you win them. If you don't win them, you don't care. But if you win them, you want to be the player that did the mini game better than the other player. This concept, I think, is good because it's sort of co-op and competitive at the same time, a lot like 4 Swords, right? You're working together, but also trying to get more gems than the other players, right? But the judge is just so... Yeah. Sometimes the judge makes perfect sense. Clearly that person did better, and the judge is like, yes, but sometimes, who the judge gives the star to, it's like, how is he judging? I don't know.
Well, I've noticed the judge would basically give a tie so often that I worry it wasn't even looking at enough factors to differentiate.
I don't know how the judge works. There's probably, and I imagine pros will find some way to manipulate the judge. So you just really can't take this mode seriously at all. Okay, so good modes. Here's some good modes. Good mode number 1 is Balloon Bang. So the way Balloon Bang works is it's hot potato. One person is playing mini games. Every other player is inflating a balloon. Whoever is playing mini games at the moment the balloon explodes loses. Everyone else wins. Hot potato. All the players who are, trying to inflate the balloon
Now,
are playing like this, like they're trying to do weird stuff outside of the mini game, right? They're like spinning things, and and depending which character you have, there's different interesting ways to interact.
All it does is, are you pumping the balloon up faster or slower?
Well, it's the same as with turtles, right?
Yeah.
You're biting the turtle tower, It's just instead of the politics of choosing which turtle tower to bite, you're basically always attacking whoever is currently playing microgames.
Yep.
If you're playing microgames, as soon as you successfully beat a microgame, you escape the hot potato, and the next player is sucked in and has to start playing them.
Yep. And you're trapped in there until you beat a mini game, or a microgame.
If you just keep failing at microgames, that might be okay. If the balloon's not inflated very much, let it inflate and then beat a game at the last second.
The only drawback, the only problem I have with this mode is that in a 4-player or 3-player, especially 4-player, there's 3 of you pumping the balloon. You pumping faster or slower or deciding not to pump at all really doesn't matter if the other 2 people are pumping it. It's going to go around the same time, and it's really just hot potato. Like that part, you don't have much agency or interaction with the game on that sidebar of pumping.
Yeah, the pumping is fun and interesting to try to figure out how to pump harder. And it might make a difference when it's very close to being popped in terms of like whether it's one or this player loses or the next player loses.
Except all your input really is am I pumping at maximum speed or am I not pumping at all?
You could pump, a little bit, or
I don't think you could plan enough for that to matter.
You could try to pump at maximum speed and fail at the execution of it because it does, mix things up over there. But yeah, it's basically the pumping is just a timer effectively, but it's a slightly variable timer based on player input, right? It's like the balloon is going to pop after a roughly X seconds from the start of the game. And if you're based on how good everyone is, and whoever is playing at that moment will be the loser, right? Okay, the next one, sly angle. So in this one, you play like these sort of you have to like grab characters from the middle, right? There's like a little game for that.
Which this is a big problem because grabbing the characters is the primary skill input into this other than the microgames. But if you don't know all the characters, you won't engage with that mechanic.
Hard to, even if you can see the characters spinning around real fast and know which one you want.
It's still real random.
It's still real random. But then you play games, and if you win the games, you get to put a flag in a hole. And if you put flags in enough holes to, as soon as you get your third flag down, they form a triangle, and it covers that triangle now covers territory, sort of like Splatoon.
It's a lot like the space game in WarioWare on the GameCube.
Well, that was a bingo situation, whereas this.
No, that was an Othello situation.
Oh, you're right. Othello situation. Exactly. But when you win games, you basically are winning the right to conquer territory. And when all the games have been played and it's over, whoever has the most territory wins. So it's really an abstraction on just a scoring mechanism, just to spice things up a little bit, as opposed to just giving you points for beating games. It's like, all right, well now conquer territory. Because you beat a game, you can put a flag down. It makes it a little bit interesting.
A little bit.
It's okay.
I feel like the most interesting mechanic would be the fact that whoever's doing better has less agency in what character they get. Like, it's got a good mechanism there, but it's still pretty. It's still so random that we couldn't really engage with it.
No.
And if you don't know the characters, you can't engage at all.
Right. What may be the second best or tied for best mode with the balloon bang, pucker up. So the way this works is the mini game is being played inside of this like hockey puck thing, right? So you're playing a mini game inside this thing, and everyone else is literally like smashing into it. So it's like you're playing on a screen within a screen, and everyone else is outside of that screen, smashing into that screen.
Similar to what you do in the dance mode in the GameCube, except way more extreme.
Yeah, it's like, it becomes really hard sometimes to play a mini game. It's like the box you're playing.
You were doing one, and we actually got a ground pound going, where we squashed the screen to the point that you literally couldn't see anything.
Yep. But it's like you could beat the micro game inside without seeing anything somehow.
That's
right?
true.
Sometimes people won the micro games. It was like, how the hell did you see that? How did you know what was happening?
Hope it's a press A mini game.
Yep. It's like it could just happen. You don't know. But yeah, it's it's kind of interesting a little bit, but it's definitely I've never seen anything like that where you're really playing in the game inside a window in the video, right? It's like a monitor in a monitor deal. So very clever who came up with that. All right. And the last one, this Frenemy Frenzy, is sort of like a extremely light version of Smash Brothers, where the characters are sort of directly fighting each other.
It's bad. It's just
it's really meh.
You're better off playing Brawlhalla than this.
Just play Smash Brothers. You have a Switch. Yeah. Why do you need to play this really meh version? We can play the real deal.
We don't even need to tear it apart. It's just bad. It's not fun.
It's not. I don't know why they put this in there, right? I guess if you don't have Smash Brothers, I don't know why.
Yep.
Why would you want to play a really simplified version of a good game? Right?
But I guess in the end, what I'd say about this WarioWare is, if you are into single player WarioWare, absolutely buy this. Absolutely.
Yeah, when WarioWares used to come out frequently, now not so much. You're not going to get another one for quite a while.
And this one's added a lot to the single player.
Is a lot of replay value because of the characters and because there are so many micro games. You will get a lot out of this as single player, but the price on this right now is the full price. I say wait for the price to go down. I only bought it at this price because I was the sacrificial lamb, right?
Yep.
Don't do it, right? And I sacrificed myself and my money.
I would pay $20 for this game,
so that you don't have to pay that full price, right? So don't. I'm telling you, what I learned is by paying the full price is that you don't have to wait until the price goes down. It will eventually. It's Nintendo, right? So it's going to take a long while.
Only buy it now if you are a lifer in the WarioWare single player universe. You have played every WarioWare.
Right. Yep. Especially when the Switch is starting to see its waning days, this game will be probably on sale and probably a good purchase in a way to get some extra mileage out of your Switch. Right? Single player, a few days, maybe a week or two, depending on how much you get into it. That'll be worth it. The full price, really tough to say you should spend the full price on this.
If you're into multiplayer WarioWare, only consider this for multiplayer if, like Scott said earlier, you are confident that you have a group of people who will play it with you regularly, who will themselves play the single player and know how the game goes, or are willing to deal with the frustration of learning all of the characters, or the multiplayer is not worth it.
Yeah, if your friends are into it, at least you really only need, 2 people, right? Because there's several good 2-people modes, But yeah, if you've got 2+ people, up 4 maximum, obviously, who are into it, then it might be worth it to pay the full price because you'll be doing the multiplayer and the single player.
Yep.
But if it's just you alone, or you're looking for that, the party game aspect and not everyone's into it, hold off or, just pass.
If I had to rank WarioWares in terms of the multiplayer, in-person party game experience, because a lot of them are single player only, this is the second best out of the 2 that have any amount of local multiplayer that's worth anything.
Right.
But
I wish I guess there aren't GameCube games on virtual console.
Oh my God. All I want is I guess we could just bust out the GameCube to play the good multiplayer
I don't need to bust out a
WarioWare.
GameCube. I have a Wii that plays GameCube games and I have the disc. I can just play it anytime.
So there is a third mode. If you are one of those single player WarioWare people who is deep into WarioWare, obviously get this, there is competitive online ranked play.
Mm-hmm.
The Wario Cup. We didn't try, at least I didn't try it, obviously, but looking at how it works, it looks like it's pretty good. The only worry I have is Nintendo does not have a good track record of keeping fake records out of those kinds of things. I worry that's going to turn into everyone's got perfect scores cheating and you can't interact with it, but time will tell. But if it works, the ranked mode could be real fun. So you can actually prove if you are good at single player WarioWare or not.
Yeah, if you're deep into that, get it, being competitive and getting high scores and things, that could be worthwhile. I didn't really try it, But I could easily imagine, right, what it's like.
Yep.
And it will have a lot of depth, right, because of all the different characters, right? Depth beyond what the older, micro game would have had if they had a similar mode to that.
Yeah. So it might be the
But yeah,
deepest.
you might want to, if indeed it comes to pass that Nintendo does not moderate the leaderboards on there very well, and people scam them somehow, you may want to see if, I don't know if it exists, if there's an online community keeping,
Yep,
more
the real
legit
records.
leaderboards, or if there's any kind of speed runs. You could speed run the single player story mode on this. Would be quite a good speed run if you could do that. I hope to see it at a GDQ, right?
Yep.
So-
Now that I looked, the world record for WarioWare Touch speed run appears to be 29 minutes. So I'm going to see if I can find a YouTube video of that, because I'm really curious to see what that looks like.
It probably, I imagine that you're just going to see every micro game end in like a fraction of a second, like boop, 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 right? Like something like that. And they just had to play so many of them to get to the end, right? Because that's how it's structured. Okay, so, I mean, overall, I'm glad Nintendo is keeping WarioWare alive, because I do love the characters and the idea, and it's a unique thing mostly. And, they made one. I wish Nintendo, there's so many, my favorite Nintendo things are always, the more quirky, smaller type deals. We love an Advance Wars and, but they brought one back, so that's good. I'd love to see just a Wario platformer. It's been a while since we had one of those. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the old Wario Land games were fantastic.
Yeah, and all this in the single player for this, you got all the fun characters and story and stuff like that going on. It's good. But yeah, I wouldn't the full price if you're not a podcaster who needs to discuss it.
Yep. At this point, I almost at the last MagFest we went to before COVID, there was some like bootleggy game people were making that was like all this Toho stuff, but they basically made WarioWare from the GameCube, like that kind of game, and it was pretty good. I feel like if we want that kind of experience, you just got to make it as an indie game and not try to make a WarioWare game, because based on Nintendo's track record, the local party mode that Scott and I are obsessed with is not what they're going for. The one WarioWare that we talk about so much was the aberration.
Yeah. So yeah, the price of this game is $50. It's like
20. I would pay 20 to play the single player of this game.
Oh, so because I just searched, I discovered, I guess I missed this somehow, there was a WarioWare Gold for the 3DS that had 300 plus micro games in
Ooh.
it. And I guess I completely missed that one.
I still have a 3DS. If I can get that game cheap,
Yeah. And there was also the DIY one where you make your own ones for the regular DS. I never played that one either.
I never played that. I don't know why when I think back. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't play that.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm glad WarioWare is a thing, but they have not yet recreated the greatness of the GameCube one.
I doubt they ever will at this point. The WarioWare games are single player or situational multiplayer at best. All right, easy show. I am